You're welcome to the Policy Council. My name is Okweme Agbaje. On this edition, we focus on the education sector in Lagos State. How has it fared? What is being done to reform the sector? What are the achievements recorded? I have with me the main policy driver for the sector in Lagos State to discuss these and other issues. Enjoy the program. You're welcome back. It's still the Policy Council, and we're talking education. And my guest is the Honorable Commissioner for Education in Lagos State. She's an educationist herself, holds a degree in history with a Master's of Philosophy in the same subject, and she also qualified as a lawyer. Today, she's the Commissioner for Education. She's been in that position since 2011. And together we will review the state of the sector, the initiatives of the ministry and the administration, and see what outcomes have been recorded in the education sector. It's my pleasure to welcome Mrs Olayinka Oladunjoye, Lagos State Commissioner for Education.
Thank you, Mr. Agbaje, for having me here this morning.
You're welcome to the Policy Council.
Thank you.
Let's start by understanding what are your objectives? What's your strategy first? What are you trying to achieve in education in Lagos State?
It's succinctly qualitative education in Lagos State.
Okay.
The only thing you can do for generation today, generation coming, is to ensure that the quality of education is comparatively the same as you have it anywhere in the world. And that's what we're aspiring to do in Lagos State, to have education that is worth its name, to give certificates that is worth the paper they're written on, to give certificates that when you go anywhere in the country, say, oh, from that university or from that school, I can assure you that it's worth the qualification that has been inscribed on them.
So the emphasis is on quality.
Quality.
Okay. Let's take it maybe sector by sector. Let me start from infrastructure. I know the challenges you face. I know that. Let me ask, how many schools do we have in Lagos State, primary and secondary?
In Lagos State today, we have 1,004 primary schools. We have 669 secondary schools. We have 5 tertiary institutions, and we have 5 technical and vocational institutions as well. Okay, so this is not a piece of cake. 1,004 primary schools, over 600. That has nursery incorporated in them.
So evidently, and from what we can see, sometimes in some schools, there's a problem with infrastructure. How are you tackling that?
By taking them as they present themselves. Because, so we have a policy by which we look at the ones that we can really say needs most intervention. We start with those ones. We are intervening. It's an ongoing process. And we have the support of government. Thank God for that, because on a monthly basis, His Excellency meets with us. First Wednesday of every month, we meet with him.
That's the education
sector and we
managers.
Call ourselves the education family.
Okay.
We meet with him, and it's an opportunity for us.
Every month?
Every month. First Wednesday of every month. It's an opportunity for us to key into his vision.
So you have something called, I saw in some of the things I read, a special committee for rehabilitation of public schools. How many schools have they rehabilitated?
Very many. What we're doing consciously now is to allow them to build schools and allow the project department in the ministry to interfere or do rehabilitation of schools. And thank God we have a facility management now in place. So we are dividing infrastructural development in that way, so that there'll be accountability and then there'll be a process. Scripts will construct new schools. The project ministry will do intervention in terms of rehabilitation and renovation. And the facility manager does. So at the end of the day, we have a holistic approach
strategy
to it in the States.
And I must admit, from the perspective of somebody who looks, yes, I drive past many schools these days, and maybe for some years now, in which you see evidence that, okay, they've just rehabilitated these buildings and all of that. Okay, let's talk very quickly about the structure for management of the sector. you mentioned that your education family meets with the governor.
Yes.
One of my concerns as somebody from the private sector is, do we even have the right managerial structures? I know you have SUBEB, you have you've divided, you have these education districts. Are you satisfied both at the primary, at the secondary level, and for the technical schools with the management structures you've put in place? Are they geared towards sustainable management of the sector, in your view?
Yes, fantastically. And I can say, beat my chest, that they're doing well.
Okay.
First of all, at the helm of the affair is my humble self, and then I have a permanent secretary working with me. Then, at the secondary school level, we have 6 districts, each being managed by a general permanent secretary. And we've asked them to take ownership of their district, which they have done. So to a large extent, there's an element of decentralization from that point of view. And within the district, we have directors, we have every other person working with the district. Supporting so the district only reports to me, so it makes it easier from that point of view. And at the primary school level, we have the chairman of a SUBEB, and then with her, we have a board secretary. We have board members working with her. And in addition, we have local government education authorities secretaries working with her. And even within the local government councils, we have education secretaries. So you can see that from that point of view, there's extensive interaction and interfacing. And then at the technical and vocational, we have an executive secretary who has board members, even though they are not daily board members, they are part-time board members. But and then we have governors, special advisors on technical education, on TV and all that. So we have all this body, and the structure, I can say to you, is fantastic. In addition, we have a teachers establishment and pensions office, TEPO. So these are the group of people that meet with His Excellency on monthly basis.
Okay, let's take a very short time out. I'm talking to Mrs. Olayinka Oladunjoye, Barrister Olayinka Oladunjoye, Lagos State Commissioner for Education. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. It's still the Policy Council, and I'm still speaking with the Lagos State Commissioner for Education, Mrs. Oladunjoye. We were talking as we closed about the management structures for education in Lagos State. And one element that I found or I read about that has just been introduced is the school-based management committees. What's that about? And what are you trying to achieve there?
Well, the School-Based Management Committee is an initiative of the federal government. They mandated all states of the federation to put it in place. Interestingly, in Lagos State, we have a very robust and proactive School-Based Management Committee. 2-3 days ago, I went for the launching of their policy documents, their flyers, and we've been lucky in Lagos State to have a spin, joining us and putting in place a very robust SBMCs. So we have over 4,000 members in this school. In fact, over about 40,000 members in the School-Based Management Committee. What they do is to partner with the ministry or the partner with the schools education SUBEB to join the schools in ensuring that things are done properly. First of all, they come in on daily basis to tell the principals and see if she has problems and tell her about what, or him or her, about what they see in the community that would affect the school adversely or positively.
Who are the constituencies or stakeholder groups that constitute this?
Anybody that is interested, just apply, and then you become a volunteer. We have all segments of the society forming school-based management committees, and they've been happy doing it, and we've been happy with them. So now that we launched the policy document for them, the flyers, the pamphlets, they now have a means of, at least a legal instruments, in quotes, to work with. They can be guided, so some of them can be excessive, you know, trying to take over the school in totality. But those policy documents will now be a guide for them.
Let's talk about curriculum. I know there's been some revisions at the national level to curriculum. To what extent have we reviewed, modernized, and domesticated curriculum in Lagos State?
Yes, to a very large extent. First of all, you can use indigenous languages. It's now compulsory. So you have a choice of Yoruba, Hausa or Igbo as a choice in our schools. Then they are trying to introduce entrepreneurship, which is something that is wonderful. But my own challenge is that most states of the Federation, and Lagos State as an exception, don't have the means capacity in terms of teachers. To drive this curriculum. But we're looking at it. We are thinking out of the box in Lagos State. We're thinking to see that, okay, if this teacher can teach civics, he can teach this subject. If you can teach biology, you can. So we're trying to harmonize. We know what we need in Lagos State, and we're trying to see how we can use what we have to get what we want.
Okay. There was a time at which I heard that your ministry was going to introduce the teaching of Mandarin, Chinese language, into education in Lagos State. Is that still on? And why did you think about that?
Well, this state is pragmatic. The governor and I were talking one day, and we're saying we have difficulties in people looking at our contract for us. We deal with Chinese governments, we deal with Chinese contractors. But sometimes when we see the policy document, they'll be the one that will interpret it. So whether they are doing it right or not, we don't even know. So I told her, I said, okay, I'm going to look at Mandarin. He said, go ahead. So I had his buy-in to do it, but it was something that we both agreed upon.
Okay.
And we're still working on it in Lagos State. We're trying to see if by the next session, I have an alliance with the Chinese ambassador in Lagos State. They're trying to get me teachers that will do it for us. And we have Nigerians too, who are versatile in Chinese language. My take is that it is not compulsory. I just think that if it's an additional opportunity, if you go to most of the Southeast Asian countries in fact, not even the southern ones, they speak an element of Mandarin. With Mandarin language, you can get by. And we know that even in America, all over the world, people are speaking Chinese language. And Chinese is the next world power, as far as we can see. I don't know what will happen tomorrow, but at least today. So we're trying to introduce it. And we're not making it examinable. It's a choice. You are free to. And I'm going to even have the backing of the parents. Do you want your child to study it? If you don't have to. But if you really want them to, then you can come on board. So we're working on it, and we will do it. But it's not examinable.
Yes.
And it's very, very optional.
Okay. I absolutely think that those who... I had some criticisms on radio, and I thought that the people didn't know what they were talking about. In the global world in which we're going into, it can only be a complementary competence and an advantage. Anyone who can speak.
Well, it's perception.
Chinese.
People don't. It depends on how you perceive issues, really. So I don't blame those who don't think we should do it. I think they have the right to say we shouldn't. But once we have indigenous languages, we have French, we have English. I think Chinese will just complement the whole thing.
Okay, let's take another time out. I'm having this conversation on policy and administration of education in Lagos State. We'll be right back.
Hey, welcome my son.
We are giving free textbooks in our school today.
Hey, I thank God. Oh. I know with this Lagos State government free education, my son will end up being a lawyer or medical doctor. He can even become an educated automobile engineer. My son tell me, say, their school don't get beautiful building with better chair and desk, new library, computer for everywhere, laboratory today, my people. All these things our children they enjoy today. Now our tax money do more. They pay my tax.
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back. It's the Policy Council, and I'm talking education in Lagos State. Let's talk about one of probably the underlying philosophical foundation of education in the southwest part of Nigeria, free education. Are you implementing that policy? To what extent are you doing so? And what do you think are the challenges with free education in Lagos State?
Thank you very much. We're implementing it to the letters. First of all, it's part of the manifesto of our party. Yes. And we don't plan to deviate from it. Okay. The extent of free education in Lagos State, after all, our infrastructure are there, free for usage. We provide books in core subjects for the students. Okay. We pay for WAEC fees. And then we had a core project. Okay. It's a World Bank project that is meant to intervene in education. So that ECHO project money has been used to give ownership of schools to the principals. Okay. First of all, they can do quick fix fixes in their schools. On a monthly basis, principals are giving this money to take care of their schools. And they've been happy doing it because it's giving them ownership. And then they've been responsible because they can be accountable. But the challenges are there, like every other thing that is free. We can only do the best within the resources that we have. And then even the best that we're doing, I think it's giving us some mileages. So I think the challenges, like every other thing, are there, but we are working around it.
Let's talk about performance, outcomes. Since this administration, let's say Babatude Fashola administration in 2007, are you satisfied with the outcomes you are getting in terms of performance of students? Let's take a benchmark in WAEC, for instance, or in other examinations conducted at the state. Do you think that all your initiatives are manifesting in better results?
But since I came on board, I decided that we need to do some reforms. First of all, I introduced primary examination. Now, to get into a JSS1, you must start an examination. Then secondly, we want them to know that it is compulsory for them to write exam. And then now you must have a score of 50% in mathematics, 50% in English, and cumulatively 50% before you are eligible to move from primary 6 to GSS1. On the other hand, once the examination is written, they have an opportunity of writing that examination again. So that for those of them who maybe they went around or were not just ready for it that day, they had done that. And we had compiled the result. And the result from this year was better than last year. So and then we can plan. We know the number we are planning for, number of furniture to provide, number of teachers to train, number of infrastructure to build, number of classrooms to provide, number of books to provide. So it has been a wonderful, that leg of it. And then the other reform I introduced was the fact that you must do screening tests. It's an acid test to ensure that before you write your mock, how ready are we? And in the process, we discovered that some subjects we need more intervention. So we introduced Saturday coaching. So Saturday coaching for those who are in SS3 now is compulsory. And maybe that was why our results are headed north, apart from any other thing. So in addition, I told them that you must come to school 90% of time and remain in school. Otherwise, I won't promote you. It doesn't matter how brilliant you are. You must be in school. You cannot be roaming about the streets. And that's why you've seen less of them on the streets. I said parents must come to parents' forum when they are invited 50% of time. Otherwise, I will not promote their wards or children because they can't abdicate their responsibilities.
Abandon the children.
And abandon them because they need to know what their children are doing. Moral, ethics is their responsibility to do. And then you leave the rest for government to handle.
Okay, fantastic. So you are confirming to us that the results...
No, it's not Uhuru. We're not there yet, but at least we're on the way.
What's your policy on science and technology education?
Well, what we're thinking about as government is technical and vocational education. That I took it on board as a policy trust, and I became interested in it. And I adopted my 5 technical colleges, and I've gone virtually everywhere to ensure that we have international best practices. In fact, we had an enterprise day. His Excellency was there to declare open. He spoke to the children. He inspired them. He motivated them. And he told them that it's not an inferior form of education. It's just a means to an end, like the other one is a means to an end. You just have to use your hand and your heads in addition. So even for them, they are better product because you can use your hand, you can use your head. And we know that any serious government administration should be looking at science, technical and vocational, and drive entrepreneurship. And that was why on that Enterprise Day, he has institutionalized it and said, July 23rd, every year, is going to be an Enterprise Day in Lagos State. And our children, when they come out, they're going to have a job to do because Lagos is doing massive developments in terms of infrastructure. So those are veritable human resources for us to plow back into what we are doing as government.
Let's take a final time out and having a fascinating discussion with the Lagos State Commissioner for Education, Mrs Oladunjoye. We'll be right back.
My name is Onyema Kinzago. I live in Lagos where things are getting better every day.
Our school has just been renovated.
And they give us free notebooks too. Going to school is easier and safer for students like me because I can cross the highway using the footbridge. And I use the BRT bus, which is fast, convenient and free for students like me. I enjoy looking at the beautiful streets on my way to school. And the many street signs tell me where exactly I am. When I get to basic 12, the government will pay the fees for my GCE and NECO examinations. I am happy. My mom and dad says all these good things are happening because they pay their taxes. I hope to pay my taxes when I grow up and start working. Have you paid your tax?
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
Welcome back. It's my final segment with the Lagos State Commissioner for Education. We've been having a very illuminating discussion on the management of education in Lagos State, the policies, the programs, and the results that are being recorded. Madam, in this our final segment, let me start with private schools. We've spoken about government, but we know that a large percentage of the schools in Lagos State are the private schools.
You're right.
What are you doing about that sector in terms of regulation, in terms of quality assurance?
It may interest you to know that we have over 12,000 private schools in Lagos State.
Wow.
And when I came on board, my initial take was to go and close down all those schools that I think are not good enough. But on second thoughts, I said, where do I put these children? We are the one that were saying we want to meet our MDG goals by 2015. We are saying every child should be in school. Indeed, in Lagos, we have a yellow card that we're giving to parents, taking them, telling them they go to jail, or we're going to fine them massively if we find their children on the streets. So it's a dilemma for me. So I said, okay, what do I do? So what I want to do, that I'm working on, in conjunction with DFID UK, is to categorize my schools. First of all, I've asked them, all of them, to come and pick a form, free of charge. Let me even know how many of them I have on the database, because I know the 12,000 are the result of the census. Let me practically see them live and direct in terms of forms. That one is ongoing.
Okay.
I intend to categorize them. We're working on it. We established the instrument. We are testing the instrument. We've done about 300 schools in Lagos State, trying to say, and we are looking back and say, we must tropicalize the instruments. Some of them look grandiose, but this is Lagos. So we're working on that. And what I intend to do by categorization is to have grade A schools, grade B schools, grade C, and grade D. And those that fall below the minimum standard will definitely be closed. Even that one is with a caveat. Do I close them? I put the children at home? Do I close? So what I intend to do, this is thinking out of the box, and it's not a policy yet, but it's just my thoughts. But I want to see whether I can make them come into clusters, whether I can make them come into cooperatives, and I agitate for an education bank.
Okay.
Because really and really, if you have a Greek bank, we have this bank, why not education? As fundamental as it is. So I'm thinking about that. I'm working with SPIN, I'm working with DFID, and my take is that this, even those one below the minimum standard, I'll say ask them to come together, make them have access to loans or something, and then ensure that my standard is met. D can come to C, C can come to B, B can come to A. And I'll tell the whole world that these are A schools that has this infrastructure. These are B schools, and then you have a choice as parents to put your children wherever you are. So we're working on that, and before the end of the year, would let the public know how far we have gone with that. Excellent,
excellent. The other thing, critical factor that we have not spoken about, well, we alluded to TEPO, the Teachers Establishment and Pensions Office, but we have not really discussed teachers' welfare. Because all of this, it depends on the motivation, the happiness, and the competence of our teachers. What are you doing about that?
We're working hard. My teachers are happy. We have an anthem that I've designed for them. So anytime we get to a function, let's sing our anthems, we sing our anthems. And my own take is that you just have to collaborate with them and take them on board. And we're doing a lot for them. First of all, I told you about the economy. It's about 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. It depends on the size of the schools that we give to principals on monthly basis. So the teachers have access to that fund, and they can do what they like within the SIP that they have designed for themselves in their schools. My teachers are going through massive capacity building, because we know that, like you said, bricks and mortars don't teach. It's teachers that will teach. And what you don't give to them, you can't ask them to give back to the children. So it's otherwise it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. So with TEPO, we're training. With SPIN, we're training. With economy, we're training. With establishments, we're training. So they have about 6 veritable means of training, and they're undergoing training. In fact, some of them just came back from Australia. Some of them are in Ghana as we speak. Some of them went to Kenya this year. So you can't even imagine the kind of training we are giving our teachers, both locally and internationally.
Excellent. I'm happy to hear that. Finally, you had an education summit, May 21 to 22nd, just very recently. What were you trying to achieve, and what were the outcomes of that, and what can we expect as a result of that summit?
We had one summit 2 years ago.
Okay.
So we're saying, how far have we gone with that, the implementation of that? Okay. We looked at the scorecard, and we saw that to a very large extent, that summit was an eye-opener. So we said, okay, if that was an eye-opener and we've been able to get to this stage, let's put another summit in place. First of all, we're able to assess ourselves, tell the world this is our assessment. And then secondly, what is happening all over the world. His Excellency and myself and some other people we've been to India, we've been to UK, we've been to Dubai.
I saw the Dubai visit.
All to ensure that education meets international best practices. And that is why we said, okay, rather than going out, let's invite them. So we have people from Canada, we have people from India, all over the world, to come, even from Ghana, come and tell us, are we doing it right? Do a critical assessment of us. We gave them the platform to do it, and they did it. And they came up with, okay, you could do better in this is better for you to do. So we're collating the outcomes of the education summit. And then I can assure you that by the time we do the next summit, we would have moved forward in terms of the outcomes of this summit.
Excellent, great stuff. Thank you very much, Madam, for coming on the Policy Council and for the great work you're doing in education in Lagos State.
It's my pleasure being here. I thank you for having me.
We'll be right back. That was a very interesting discussion. Education is fundamental to societal development. My discussions with the Commissioner have touched on the key elements of that: infrastructure, teachers and their welfare, curriculum, science and technology. And all of that, happily, is receiving attention in Lagos State. But there is still a lot to be done. We must, as the ministry aspires, continue to aim for a day in which education in Lagos State, and indeed in the whole of Nigeria, can be properly benchmarked against the best of global standards. That is the goal, and it is a tall order, but it's something that can be done. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.